Trump was impeached, and it really was embarrassing when Nancy Pelosi was like, "He's impeached forever." Okay, and then he was acquitted in February. He was impeached in January, I believe it was, and then he was acquitted in February. So he wasn't impeached forever. And what I found interesting as well is at this point, The Atlantic was floating the idea of Trump cheating in November. I found this article, and I found this absolutely fascinating, this one from The Atlantic. Perhaps the most troubling form of cheating is the most diffuse, therefore the hardest to grasp. Trump's re-election campaign, abetted by right-wing media and companies like Facebook that have absolved themselves of any democratic responsibility, is waging a disinformation war modeled on the efforts of dictators on an unprecedented in its scale. That's hysterical.
That's amazing. I mean, bolstered by right-wing media, he's the right-wing candidate. Who cares?
And that's just Fox News.
Yeah, that's only Fox News. There is no one else there. But bolstered by Facebook. Right. So, if I wanted to be charitable, because I understand the argument of people trying to do this, which is that Facebook isn't deleting misinformation that comes from right-wing sources, like Trump's campaign ads. The fact that they're not deleting him is enough for them to be on his side.
Yes.
That's
that
unironically
is
their argument.
Pro-Trump activism.
Which is obviously absurd.
Yeah, but this article from The Atlantic, the reason I chose it is because it kind of summarizes the hysterical view that the left-wing establishment had at the time, right? Listen to this. The cumulative effect of Trump's efforts, all of the stains on his shirt, is to disorient the media and the electorate. Democrats, meanwhile, are fighting about how aggressive to get on climate change or whether debt-free college should be means-tested, bless their hearts. These are worthy questions, but not the questions of the moment. How should they fight against a president who has no moral or legal compass and will use the full might of the executive branch to win? He didn't do any of those things. Like Donald Trump just seems to have gone through the usual electoral process. And if we're talking about people with no moral or legal compass, and when you put yourself in this kind of war footing and say this is as bad as it is, and Donald Trump's a fascist, he's going to use the executive branch to win this election, blah blah, then I mean, why wouldn't you cheat? Not saying that anyone did cheat, obviously. YouTube, just question, why wouldn't you?
I mean, there's a point there, no moral or legal compass. Well, what would that person be like? How would you describe a person like that? And it's the kind of person who just ebbs and flows with the wind, surely. Like the political wind goes one way and they just go with it. Endlessly.
It's even worse, actually. It's someone who you might call an amoralist. So there's a Platonic dialogue called Protagoras, I think it is, where Socrates is arguing why people should be concerned with an ethical life. And there's one actor in there called Callicles who just rejects it and says, well, no, look, I don't have to be ethical at all. I just have to be the strongest. And therefore, anything I do is justified on dint of my strength. And therefore, all of the eloquent ethical arguments in the world won't change a thing if I just physically take it. And this is something that Plato doesn't feel that he addressed well. Even I think it's one of the things that he goes on to address in the Republic. But the point is, if you think you're dealing with someone who has no moral and legal compass, you're dealing with a Callicles, with someone who is not an ethical person, and that's how they've been talking to themselves about Donald Trump. But I don't think it's true. I don't think Trump is willing to go beyond the bounds of law. To be honest, he doesn't seem to have really done anything.
No, but I was more thinking about his political positions. I mean, I don't know the guy, through and through or anything, but the only thing I can think of that he seems to have shifted on is surely healthcare. Like, you look at his old book when he used to be with that third-party candidate, I can't remember the name right now, but, promoting universal healthcare or saying universal healthcare would be preferential, and now he's actively against it, or at least his campaigning is. But on everything else, he seems to take a stance on a thing and then sticks with it. Like, I don't see him ebbing and flowing on a fundamental issue. Like, sure, maybe a piece of policy here and there or something like that. Someone can, tag me on Twitter and say, what about this? But, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to America, when it comes to fundamental rights, Like, he seems pretty solid. Whereas I look at Joe Biden, and I think that's more of a person that just seems to flop with the wind. I mean, you can't be in politics for 50 years without just going with things as they go. I mean, especially with the Black Lives Matter and the radical left in the last election. Like, Antifa is just an idea, man. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's what we're dealing with.
What's interesting is if you go back with Joe Biden, I mean, Joe Biden used to be what I guess they would call a racist, and he was against gay marriage.
Kamala
He
Harris
wasn't-
called him one, didn't she?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. He got called all sorts of things in the run up to the Democratic National Committee's elections. So, like, it's mad, to be honest, that Joe Biden, Joe Biden just seems to be the avatar of corruption of the swamp. He really does. He's very, just like Hillary. There's this gang of them, but Trump was very clearly outside of it. And it's interesting how the sort of media establishment portrays that as being without no moral or legal compass, as if everything that Biden has done has been completely above board and nothing illegal. You know, it's fine for your drug addict son to take millions of dollars from foreign governments, presumably keeping 10% for the big guy, whoever that might be. Patriarch Biden. It's interesting how we're being sold such an obvious fantasy.